A subscriber sent me an important question. She said, "What is the difference between setting a boundary and forcing change?" I thought, wow, I think I'll make a video on that. So, what is the difference? We know from my videos that I don't want you to try to force a change. Forcing a change doesn't work because you're trying to make somebody do something. You can't make other people do something that they don't want to do. The longer that you spend obsessing and trying to make someone change, the less time that you spend on changing the things you can, which is yourself, your attitude, how you respond to it, eventually taking care of yourself, speaking your truth in love, and then setting that boundary. So, because we don't like to answer the difficult questions and set boundaries, which may require us to answer some hard questions and make some really painful, hard choices, we instead focus on trying to get people to change. Forcing a change means that we are trying to make somebody do something. We're nagging, we're threatening, we are explaining, we are lecturing, we are putting pressure, we're withholding, maybe we're being punitive. We might just do all kinds of things. We might even try to change ourselves and hope that the other person would change. So all of those things are trying to get the other person to change. Now, it's okay to let a person know what bothers you and that you would like a change, because that's speaking the truth in love. But trying to force that change means that you add pressure, you add manipulation, you add kind of an obsessive focus, and the other person can tell that you're definitely working at trying to change them. That's an unhealthy way of forcing a change. And we often get very obsessive in our life and obsessively try to figure out how we can make that person change. When you set a boundary, you instead are focusing on yourself. You're looking at the situation, you're saying, this is a situation I don't like, this is not okay with me. I've got to decide what I'm willing to do and not willing to do about this situation. That is not forcing another person to change. Even when you tell that person, I'm willing to live with you if you stop drinking, but I am not willing to live with you if you do not stop drinking, you are basically letting that person know that that's your limit. Okay, what you're willing to do under what circumstances. You're not forcing a change, you're actually giving the person notice, and you're allowing the person to make a decision now that they know what your parameters are. The person has free will, the person can choose. I can stop drinking or not stop drinking, but I know if I don't stop drinking, I'm not going to be able to stay in relationship with this person. But if I do, I will be able to stay in relationship. That is giving the person notice and allowing them to choose. That is very different than trying to force them to change. So when you are setting a boundary, like I said, it's a little harder than just kind of hoping that someone will change. You've got to really kind of dig deep and think, what am I willing to do? What am I not willing to do? And am I willing to draw that line? Am I willing to risk losing the relationship? Am I willing to risk that the person will make a choice that I don't want them to make? And then I'll have to follow through with what I said I would do or not do. So don't do that until you're ready, because you don't want to say it and not mean it. So when you make your own choices and when you allow people to make their own choices, you're both empowered. You know that you are responsible for the choices that you make, and you are more likely to follow through with whatever it is that you're going to do. So when somebody chooses on their own, rather than feeling that they're being kind of duped into it, and setting a boundary is not forcing somebody. It is giving the person a choice. They own their choice. So I'm going to ask you, how do you try to force change in your life? Instead, I want you to start thinking about what you're willing to do and not willing to do. And then I want you to share your boundary with the person when you are ready, only when you are ready to actually follow through with whatever it is that you say that you're going to do based on that person's choice. Proverbs 15:27 says, the greedy bring ruin to their households, but the one who hates bribes will live. Having clear and firm boundaries keeps you from doing things that bring ruin to your life and relationships. Matthew 18:15 through 17 says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their faults just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. So first speak your truth in love directly to the person, giving them the opportunity to hear what it is that you have to say. Then after that, you need to set your boundary and you need to follow through. Now, when we talk about bringing in other people or bringing before the church, a lot of our churches today, most of them don't have an elder board or are not set up to where you can bring people before the church. So we're not necessarily talking about that. It could be talking to a family. It could be talking to your children if it's your spouse. Use wisdom. I'm not saying to expose everything to expose something to just groups of people just randomly. No, this is very serious stuff if you are to do that. But basically, I'm saying setting a boundary allows that person to make a clear choice once they know what you're willing to do and not willing to do. So thank you for listening to this video on Change My Relationship.